Between the swings. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, The Fifth Perspective. I thought today that we would do, I don't know, kind of more like, I guess what you call ghost stories that I call spirit stories. I have many, so I'll share some in this episode. Sorry, it took me a while again to get in this chair. I get like ADD more often than I probably should. And I just had to go back to this house that I drove by and saw this side table that I really want to refurbish. And I was just like, oh, so afraid someone was going to get it. But I'm like, if it's meant for me, it'll still be there. And it was. So it is currently in my garage and I'm happy about it. Anyway, so let's see. As a kid, the house that I grew up in, it was in a suburb, like a new suburb that was being built. So it was a brand new house, and we were the first family that moved in there. And there wasn't anything initially, but over time, my parents were obsessed with antiques. So whatever they would buy and bring into the house, I started noticing activity. And some things I experienced, I never could actually visually see what the person looked like. Sometimes I could tell if it was like a male or female, and sometimes I couldn't. I just knew it was like an energy there. And I also think, not to freak anyone out, this will be another episode of like, I don't know, scary stories. But I had a very traumatizing childhood. I said I would share all on this channel, so I grew up with a lot of emotional abuse and physical abuse by my father. It was bad. I remember having to, like the day before 9/11, he kicked me out of the house and I had to sleep outside on our porch and it was cold out. And my mom like snuck me in to eat food and get ready. There was a lot of things obviously that like I learned that like stress and anxiety and fear is normal and to hide things. And obviously growing up and in the difficult challenges in my life that were crafted for me so that I could learn and grow, like I obviously learned over time this was not normal whatsoever. But yeah, I remember going back to school the next day, like already completely out of my mind, an emotional wreck, and like having to put on a normal face in high school. And I went to chemistry class and suddenly like the teacher looked so sad and turned the news on, and then I'm sitting there watching 9/11 happening, and I felt like I was just going to fall out of my body. Anyway, what we do attracts things. Remember this. So at some point too, there was a very dark entity that got brought to that house. And to this day, it'll still find me, like in my dreams. I'll become very aware in that house again, how it used to look before they redid it and sold it. And to this day, if there's anything like that has like this demonic thing to it, like that dark of energy, I just leave. Like I can smudge houses and clear stuff out, but if it's that, I leave. Because I also had an experience in Chicago. I remember the address exactly. I was like 1902 North Milwaukee, right by the Blue Line Western stop. Don't live there. Don't live there. I did the work for you guys, and there is a very evil man that lives there, and it was like totally like those horror movies. So I'll share that another time. That is not today. So yeah, like they just kept bringing spirits in. Some of the things, like I remember, like while growing up, like I remember like just silly things like trying to make breakfast. And I'm by myself. Like, no one ever believed me in anything. Like, I would say things and everyone's like, oh, okay. You know? By high school. Yep. Like, beginning of high school, my mom finally believed me because she finally, like, witnessed what I was telling her. So I was, making breakfast, and every cabinet I kept opening. I would go to make breakfast, and I would go to turn around to close the cabinet, but it was already closed. This happened, like, over and over, like, 4 times, and every time I'm, like, questioning, I'm like, wait, like, did I close that, though? Like, oh, maybe I did. Then it happened again. Did I close that? Maybe I did. I don't know. Happened again and again. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, I don't know what's happening. And I opened the Lazy Susan. Like, I left it open, like, this much. And grabbed, like, syrup from there. And I believe it was syrup. Whatever. I grabbed something from there to finish making my waffles. I'm surprised I even remember what I was trying to make. But I was. And I went to turn around and put it back, and it was closed. And I heard someone laughing, and I didn't feel like any threatened energy. Like, it was this energy that was just having fun with me and being like, hey, I'm here, you know, like everything you think, like, yes, it's me. And I just started laughing. I laughed with it, with this spirit, and shook my head and went to sit down and eat. My mom came home from the grocery store, goes to put groceries away, and she's like, oh, like, how was your morning? And I was like, fine. I'm like, but there's a spirit in this house that made it known it's here, and we had a moment where we laughed together because it thinks it's funny, like, to keep closing the cabinets for some reason. And she's like, oh, she's like, uh-huh, you know? I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. Like, me being the teen, whatever, gonna go. Went to sit to watch TV. We had the main living room, and then, like, the dining room got turned into, I don't know, like a second side living room that had a smaller TV in there. So I went to sit there and watch it. She finishes what she's doing. She comes to sit down and watch the show with me. Commercial start, like, hits, and she gets up to go to the kitchen, and I just start hearing her, like, screaming frantically, but, like, cracking up while screaming. She's like, oh my god, like, laughing, like, Alicia. I'm like, what? Like, what? And I get up to go to the kitchen. She's like, I didn't believe you. I didn't believe what you said. And so I opened all the cabinets and came back. She's like, and they're all closed. All of them. They're all closed. And I looked at her. I was like, yeah. Like, welcome to my world now. And I'm like, now you're stuck believing me now on everything, which she was. Even, like, when I had, like, premonitions, and I'd tell her in advance, and I would say, like, you need to listen to me, and you need to listen to me right now. And when I would start off saying that, she knew that, without a doubt, like, I knew that this was coming. It wasn't something that could change. It was, like, happening. So yeah, that was funny. And then there was another time where it was like the day before my cousins came to visit, and my dad was sitting, there's like the big couch and the armchair on the side in the main living room. So he's sitting on the armchair, watching TV. And out of nowhere, he like yells for my mom. Her name is Nadine, but in Serbian, it's not, it's, I don't even know how to say it right. I'm such a disgrace. In Serbian, it's like nada, and it's funny because in Spanish it means nothing, but in Serbian it means something else. Anyway, he's like, nada, he's like, can you close the window, or do you have windows open? He's like, there's a strong breeze. My mom's like, what? She's like, no, I don't have any windows open. And he was like, oh. He's like, well, maybe it's the fan, and looks up, it's not on. And he's like, well, that's weird, I don't know. And I remembered him saying that. The next day, my cousins came over, and we were sitting watching a movie together. And my cousin Chelsea was like touching my arm while she's sitting next to me on this couch, on the big couch. And like this couch is heavy. You need like multiple people to lift this thing. And her sister Rachel was downstairs in the basement, but we didn't know that at the time. Anyway, so the rest of us are in the big living room watching a movie while the adults are in the side dining room, which got set up with like a table and stuff for them to like sit at, and yeah. So like, I don't know if they were playing a game or eating food still or what, or having drinks, but something like that. And this movie is playing, and then all of a sudden, I feel this energy come, like, just shoot right through me, through the room, before it even happened. Like it ran so fast. And I feel this coming, like, seconds before it happens. So I already feel this energy run through. And then my cousin and I, our hair was, like, long, like how it is now. And we just feel this really strong breeze, like, go through, where our hair flew up like this, like, whoosh, you know? And then there was a thud on the back of this heavy couch, like someone ran into it. Someone ran into it, and at such force that it, like, lifted the couch, like it's on the ground, and then it, like, runs into the couch, and the couch goes boom, like that. So we, like, lean forward from it, like, you know, pushing us forward, and our hair. And I'm thinking it's funny, because then I'm like, oh shit, like, this is what my dad felt yesterday. Oh, and the day before, the same day he said that, I was going to go get something, and something I felt in here for no fucking reason. Excuse my language, I swear a lot. Was like, oh, sit down here. And I'm like, well, in my head, I'm like, I don't want to, like, you know, like, why? But then I'm like, oh, maybe I do want to, I don't know. So this is before, like, I fully was understanding, like, when I was being told something. So I sit down, and, like, I feel like I need to sit down on the back of the couch, like, where your head rests, instead of, like, on the couch. So my feet are on, like, where you'd actually be sitting. And then I'm sitting on the top of this heavy couch. And my shirt, because in those days, I guess it's kind of back again, but, like, yeah, you wore the low-rise pants and, like, not necessarily crop tops, but, like, I guess kind of. But because it was low-rise, you had, like, your midriff showing all the time. And out of nowhere, I felt this hand just go across my back. But it was, like, not like an actual physical hand. I felt like that energy of what that hand was. It just, like, went slowly across my midriff, like, my back, like, slowly across, to just be like, hey, I'm here, too. And I'm like, is this the same? I always wondered, like, I didn't know if it was the same thing as the one in the kitchen. I kind of felt like it was two different things. It was like another thing that my parents brought in this house, which I kept telling them, like, please, like, do something to disconnect the energy before you bring it in here. That was before I even, like, learned how to smudge things or cleanse a house, because I would, like, see it working. Yeah, so that happened the day before. So then the next day when my cousins are watching the movie, that happens, couch lifts, falls back down. I think it's funny. And then I'm like this, looking at my cousin, I'm like, ooh, like, uh-oh. Because she's going to freak out. Like, it's not normal for her. And she did. She, like, stops and she looks at me, like, right away. She's like, did you? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, oh my God. She's like, I'm never sitting next to you again. Like, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Maybe, like, you felt what I felt because you're, like, touching my arm. Like, I have no idea. And then at first me and her were like, wait a minute. We're trying to, like, rationalize and be logical. And we're like, wait a minute. Did like, someone do this? Like, did one of us do this? And we were, like, little kids. Like, at this time, like, I mean, there's, like, a lot of us for cousins, and we're, like, widespread apart. So, like, even though, like, I was, like, in high school or middle school or whatever it was at that time when that happened, like, my cousin was still in grade school or middle. I don't know. It's just, like, that distance, right? I never remember how old they are. I don't even remember how old their kids are. There's too many people at this point. It feels like there's, like, 20 of us at this point. Anyway, so we're like, is it Rachel? Like, because she's the only one not here. So we start yelling for her. We're like, Rachel! Rachel! And we hear her voice, like, quiet, far away in the basement. She's like, what? And we're like, that's when we look at each other, we're like, oh my God, like, there's no way it was Rachel. And then I'm like, common sense, there's no way, like, any of us as kids could even lift this heavy couch, So that was a funny moment. Anyway, fast forward all the way to the time I want to tell you in Chicago about the time my brush floated in the air. So I moved to Chicago towards the end of 2007. Yeah, in winter, after my car accident that happened that summer in July. It's funny because these stories I'm going to tell you, like, I look back and I see how everything keeps connecting, like the grand web that it is, even through, like, people I meet, things that happen, whether it's, like, good or bad. It's, like, all part of the bigger picture, and, like, how I became the way I am today and understanding things on a much deeper level of, like, the meaning of life and why we're here, born individually, and what we think is separate, and what we're actually doing on the other side. That's one I will share in a future episode as well. But yeah, like, when the accident happened, I just remember, like, totally tuning into, like, Chicago. Like, I need to move to Chicago. I don't even know why. I just know I need to go there. Little did I know I was kind of repeating footsteps from a past life. Anyway, I moved there, end of 2007, and the first apartment I had was, oh my God, it was like a temp place. I shifted in there not even knowing that there were like cockroaches. That's like a whole other story. But it was like the second floor above a restaurant, and like everyone would rave about this restaurant. It did shut down, but I remember being like, you couldn't even drag me into that restaurant to eat anything because I see the amount of like dead cockroaches in the hallway that is coming from that kitchen door. Like the door to the kitchen was like somehow connected to that hallway. Anyway, yeah, so that was a super temp spot that I just used to search for the next place. I think I was only there for like 4 months. And sometimes when I'm in a place, I can't pick up on something being there right away. Sometimes it'll show itself after a month, some weeks, 2 months of me being there. The more I got better at picking up on what is around, I could walk in someone's house and like immediately be like, oh, this spirit's here, this is that, you know? It mostly stays there, or anyway. Yeah, and I'll have like a visual even of what, sometimes like what the spirit looks like, male or female, kind of like the time they're from. That exactly happened at this first apartment. So I was sitting in front of my full mirror on a stool, doing my makeup, and behind me was my brush. And it was like kind of near the edge of the bed. And tea break. As I was doing my makeup, I hear this static that reminded me of, okay, I heard this noise that I thought was the bristles of my brush, like going like across my duvet cover, because I thought like it was gonna roll and fall off the bed. I was like, okay, whatever. I just keep doing my makeup, and it just kept happening. And then when I really like listened to it, I'm like, that is not bristles on my bed. This sounds like when you take your hand across, remember the old TV screens, the glass TV screens, those of you that remember, and it would go, and that static would happen. You'd feel it like spark on your hand, the static. That's what it sounded like. So as I realized this is what it sounds like, I see something moving behind me in the corner of my eye, and I know it's my brush. So I look at my brush behind my right side, and again, like, I'm not scared at all, because what I see, clear as day, in like the same space of this room. So let's say she's standing in this corner, but I am seeing her there as an inner projection. And I see this little girl who is around 9 years old, straight, short hair to here, to her chin, like a ashy light brown color. She was a white girl too, wearing this lace dress. How funny that I'm wearing this right now telling the story. I didn't plan on it, but it had like this collar there too, in lace, and her short sleeves, and then her dress like went out, you know, at like the A-line to her knees, just above her knees, right around her knees. Yeah. And she was curious as to what this thing was on my bed that was my brush. And she, I should have gotten the brush, but okay. I still have it. After all these years. I actually bought a second one of it because I was so sick and tired of putting it in my bag that I would bring to my boyfriend's house at the time, to have to like repack this stuff. So I have two of them. Which one it was that defied gravity, I don't know, but it's one of them. She picks up the handle on my bed. Like there's like a hole in the handle. That's where she's holding it. And so she's like picking it up like this off my bed and lifting it up and like looking at it like this. Like so curious as to what it is. And so I see the handle get picked up first, you know? And then it's like directly like up and down from the handle to the end of my brush. Above my bed, a good 3 feet off my bed. Her back is to me. She has no idea I see her. And I'm thinking this is funny. And I'm wondering why she's stuck here still. You know what? I feel bad to this day because now that I know how to help a spirit detach from a physical thing, whether a house or furniture, I wish so much that like I could have done that for her, because I only picked up on her there. And for her to be dressed in that time, she's still living there in her time. Like she has no idea. There's often times that spirits have no idea what time it actually is, like what year it actually is, because they still think it's that time. I believe she was aware it was a different time, but she was still dressing like that time. What she passed away from, I don't know. But so she was holding this thing up, looking at it, and I'm thinking it's funny, like laughing to myself, like not making a sound. And I turn around and to look right at her on the brush. And I'm just looking at the brush and I'm looking at her. When I move to look at the brush to her, she turns around, sees me staring right at her, and knows that I see her. And it scared her. I scared her. Like, with other people that don't experience this, that would have scared them. But I scared her. And she goes like that, drops my brush back on my bed, and runs out my door. And that I never saw her again. Like, I don't know if she was just so afraid of me that I saw her, that she just hid, you know, for the remainder of the time I was there. I bet if I stayed, I would have seen her again. Maybe I just need to go back to Chicago sometime in the summer when the crazy winter is not freezing my nose hairs, and ask if I can go back in that place. I know that sounds weird, but like to go back in that place to do a blessing and a cleansing, so I can be sure that she moved on, you know? Or maybe I don't have to. You know what? I've done prayers not physically there. That's what I'm going to do, you guys. I'm going to do that after I'm done this video. For her to see the light, finally, and be led home. Speaking of, I know I am not a religion. I'm not a religion. That divides people. Don't care whether you want to believe it or not. It's fact in history to present day. Everybody wanting to think they know more, whatever. Even I don't know everything. I'm just sharing pieces that I experience, right? But I think these things work because we give power to it. Our energy, we're giving power to it. Like when you celebrate something like New Year's Eve, we're so much positive, heightened energy is coming off of everyone. And whether we realize it or not, this energy is surrounding all of us, you know? So I think that's why I've seen where, like I've told my brother, I'm like, I know you aren't a religion, just pick one. Just pick any and just like get the blessing done. Because there is the energy behind it, the purpose of what you're doing. And I've seen it work, you know? It can disconnect bad energies that want to hook onto you from things you experience, like me in my car accident. My God, the amount of rear endings I have had will blow your mind. And this energy like attached itself. And I went last Christmas to get blessed again, because I remember when I came back from my car accident, even though I didn't die, I was somewhere else. And I don't know what came back with me. I don't know what attached itself to me. I just remember that even though I didn't die that day, or even though I came back looking the same, sounding the same, and didn't die that day, physically, I died that day. And I was like back at the beginning trying to figure myself out. Anyway, so that's very important. Like even if you've never gone to, I don't go to church, but on like the day of your passing, like there needs to be prayer for that person, or that person needs to speak to any priest, whatever, reverend, whatever, to talk about what they need to lift this off. And I swear to God, I don't know why, it like opens the door, and they see it and it's there and they go to the other side. Unlike other people who pass away and they don't even know and they're stuck. Anyway, I will dive into that more another day. So yeah, that's what happened at that one apartment. I think the last thing I wanted to share is something that helped me complete a very difficult year of a cycle that I had to do, that I didn't know I had to, that I was angry about, but I understand now. And the person that stuff happened with my family, I came home. I just knew I had to leave early before Christmas to be by myself, to go in solitude and silence, to dig far deep in whatever message I received from the Spirit. And like, did I receive? It's such this like in-depth thing that just blew my mind. I'll record these things sometimes because I don't remember in detail. And it just finally, my whole life, 38 years, I have been trying so hard to understand things that I couldn't and heal in past traumas and pain. And this message I got just helped me like shut it all away. It just like dropped. And it's the first time in my life, no matter what could be wrong, what family members are in my life or not, I'm not worried anymore. Like I feel free. I feel free. Like I can actually breathe easier. It's the craziest thing. And the physical pain I've been going through all year, like I don't feel it right now. I know that's how connected I am emotionally. Anyway, I ended up being by myself at my ex's house because he is in Ukraine shooting stuff for a documentary that he really wants to do, and it just worked out in perfect timing. I couldn't come home because I didn't know I'd come home early, and I had a girl that I really like and friends with now who stayed here for December. And I will always honor my word, obviously. So there was no way I was going to even consider coming back to my house. So I went there by myself. And I saw, day before Christmas, this postcard. Actually, it flew off to the middle of the room to my foot, face up, which is that one. And I knew that was my friend Schultz kind of just being like, you're not by yourself, you know? And I wasn't. He was with me on Christmas. I know he was. Because I heard him be like, go get the postcard, go get the postcard, go get the painting. So I did. And I sat with it. And then I got in silence and meditated deep for like hours after 2 weeks of solitude. I will eventually share what I learned. But now to continue being older and things I've learned and know, it's still so funny how sometimes like things can catch me off guard. But when it becomes aware, I listen. I do. Because I learned my lesson to never not listen to me again after my first car accident that I should have died in. So my friend Schultz passed away, I believe it was, I don't want to say the wrong date, but I think it was December 11th. Last year. And 2 months before he died, sorry, there's a fuzzy flying, I saw in the floorboards, I thought I was going crazy, I saw the floorboards his face form, and he was, I was like, what is this? Like, is he like sleeping? I don't know. I know at this point he had so many concussions that he was staying, like, he's being taken care of in one of those facilities. And yeah, I saw his face, and when I really focused on it, I was like, I just had the feeling in here, his time's coming soon. I knew it. And I realized that what I'm looking at was him passed away, laying down. Whether it was how he died, or like how he was found, or him at the funeral, you know, laying in his coffin or something. I don't know. But I saw that. And I remember texting my ex, because he was the one that basically brought us together. And luckily, thankfully, like he was someone I didn't know I needed in my life. His family. Man, we pulled each other through a lot of hard times. Yeah, I told my ex, he was in Chicago, and I said to him, I had a vision, and I felt very strongly that Schultz is going to pass away soon, you know? And soon there is different than here. Soon there is like, could be a month, 6 months, whatever. think by the time I hear soon, it's under a year. And I told him, I'm like, you should make time to go see him. You know, things happen how it happens. I know he was busy with this thing and it didn't work out that way. And that's okay. Because he was with us anyway. After, at the funeral and after. And I remember when I found out, the funeral, I was like, oh my God, I have my ticket to go to Canada already. And Max was like, don't worry, I'll pay the difference, because at that point I was like not expecting that, already financially tight. And I was like, I don't know, do I need to go? I don't think I need to go. But I felt something like, go, like you need to go. So I was like, I'm like, okay, this is crazy, but like, okay, we're gonna go, I'm gonna get a flight, I'm gonna leave like a red eye or like early. It was like that quick. And I remember like crying in my bed, and I said out loud to Schultz, I was like, you better come find me, and you better come through to me to let me know that you're okay, some kind of message in whatever way you do. And I promise you, when you do, I will let everyone know, which I did. And after the funeral, before I flew out there, I was talking to my ex Ryan. I call Schultz because he is also Ryan, so it gets confusing. So anyway, I talked to Ryan, my ex, and I was like, I know this sounds weird, but like I was thinking maybe the next day after the funeral, we could go to the art museum, the Chicago Art Institute, because I know that was his favorite place, you know? Like he really loved it there. And like Ryan was like, I was thinking the exact same thing. Why? Because without us knowing, we were supposed to go. And Schultz knew that we were going to go before we even knew. So the next day after the funeral, we go to the we go to the Chicago Art Institute. And we walk in the doors. And while we're checking our coats and stuff, I said to Ryan, I was like, I wonder if he's here now with us. Is that weird? I'm like, I don't know. I kind of feel like he's happy we're here and he's here with us. And Ryan's like, yeah, I don't know. You know, we go through this whole museum. On the second floor, we're standing in this room, and I'm looking at this art in this room, and then all of a sudden I hear that like someone's so excited. And I hear, look over there, you have to look. And I'm like, and I feel pulled so much that I see this bottom corner of this painting through like the walkway to the other room. And so I like lean forward to look, you know, sideways, and I'm like, okay, you know, and I still feel like you need to see this whole thing. So then I took like 2 steps forward, thinking I would see the painting, still didn't. And I'm like, okay, people aren't gonna be stupid or whatever. I take another 3 steps forward till I finally see this painting fully through the archway. and I go to Ryan, I'm like, hey, as we're in this room looking at other art, he probably thinks I'm ridiculous because I'm like, hey, like, I tap him, I'm like, look at that painting. And he's like, oh yeah, he's like, I know that one. And I'm like, I've never seen it before, and I feel like I really just need to go up close to see this painting. But like, we're already going this way and like making our rounds. So like, can we come back to that painting when we're done? You know, the circle we're doing. And he goes, yeah. I'm like, okay. We keep going, And then we finish everything, and Ryan is like, is there anything else you want to see? And I hear again, like, yeah, you have to look. And I'm like, oh. I'm like, yeah, actually, remember that painting I showed you through the archway? And he goes, yeah. I'm like, I don't even remember, like, where we were when I saw it, but that's the last thing that I feel like we both need to see up close. And he's like, okay, yeah. He's like, I remember how to get there. And I'm like, okay. So I follow him. We go. And when I get there, I see this painting. It is of this woman who looks so, at first, she could look like depressed or tired. And I go up to the painting as close as I can. And I just look at it like this. And I just feel like I'm also seeing Schultz in her, because as I'm looking at her, I see the amount of pain she is in physically. Like, she's exhausted. And where people might not understand, she's ready to go. And I see the things on her tabletop that in that time was what I felt like was like the medicine, the stuff they're doing to try to treat her. And she's exhausted, looking off in the distance of where she's going to go next, like ready to go. And I'm like, oh my God, like I feel like Schultz loved this painting so much because like this is how he feels, like this is him, you know? And this is how I felt. Like I know how he feels because I went through my hell feeling exactly the same way, you know? When I really didn't think I would get through what I was going through. And yeah, I just thought of him. I'm like, I feel like I'm looking at him, you know? Too. Like, and as I'm looking at it too, like I just feel like such just like happiness looking at it. And then once I think I stared at this thing like a good 5 minutes up close. And then finally I felt like, okay, we can go now. Ryan and I got in our car, we left. And as we were driving away from Chicago, I said my farewell to Schultz, like rest in peace, King of Chicago, because he was like the center of our web of friends at that time. And like, was such this person that created pivotal points or just important moments in people's lives of like relationships. Like he introduced so many people where it was like pivotal, I think. And some of these friends to this day are still in my life when I talk to. I mean, I even have a tattoo on my arm. Wait. Why can't I get it to video? I don't know. There. That was like a spur moment thing done by my friend Ian, who lives in Chicago, who he also taught painting. And I don't know, my friend Cameron, who, shout out to you, lives in Illinois by Chicago and like paints beautifully too. And like, you know, they were really close. But like, even going to that funeral, like it brought me back together with like people I lost touch with. Anyway, so Ryan drives me to my Bubba's house in Canada, and we got there late. We crashed there. The next morning, we have like coffee, and we were reading our coffee, and I was reading his coffee. He like recorded it. It was funny. My stomach is making sounds now. Yeah, I need to eat dinner. All right, I'm almost done. Anyway, so he left, and then I'm talking to my Bubba about Schultz and how he was the one that introduced Ryan and I together, and how he introduced so many people together. and how these people are still my friends, on and on. I go to his Instagram, going through photos, showing her. And I come across this photo, and like chills just shoot through me, and I'm like, oh, and I just start laughing so hard, and I am crying so hard because I see a photo of Schultz standing at the same painting on the second floor, in front of it, exactly the same way I was, like this. And on what I read in, like what he wrote underneath it was like, this is my favorite painting in this entire museum. Like, and how like the Chicago Art Museum is his favorite place, and this is his favorite painting of all of them. And I just laughed so hard, and I was like, you and your funny ways, you know, like still making people laugh, like you were there at the museum, and you absolutely needed me and Ryan to see this painting because I'm the one that can, you know, be reached. Like, you reached me, and I gave this gift to me and Ryan, not only me and Ryan, but like to the people who love him, like his friends, his family. Yeah. And it was a really cool thing. And my way of knowing that he's okay. And since then, I will say, I feel like, especially since Christmas, I feel like he has joined my team of guardian angels and protectors. And I am so grateful to have him doing this great work on the other side for people he loves and for me. This is the photo. I'm going to share the photo. This is the post for everyone to see. So this is the painting that he led me to and went up close just the same. On the right, I deleted the name of my Instagram account, but, you know, that was me basically letting the family know too, because I know they like control the account and check it now. So that is him. So, you know, this is a reminder to everyone, even though you can't hear people from the outside or see them, they're always there. Don't ever doubt it, because they are. They all just want us to be happy, live our life the best, stop allowing our fears and stresses to take over and rule and break us down, because that also is the static where they can't reach us. So yeah, that is the episode for today. The next one I'm going to do, I've thought about this one. It's going to be me sharing the crazy story of a past life I remember. It's the past life that happened before this one. And, you know, it's funny. I never believed in reincarnation ever. I don't believe in anything until I experience it. So now I believe this. So that will be the next story I share for everyone. Until next time. Always forever in my memory. I love you, Schultz.